Okay, just for recording, I will repeat. So in last class, we were saying that this is for classification. We have k classes among the for a given vector x. We want to classify among all these k classes, and just for notation purpose, we say that C1 to Ck. We because these are the linear models, so we will try to find out the decision boundaries, which will be linear, and the regions that will be formed because of the decision boundary will be convex in nature. Then I said that what do you mean by convex? That they will be not, it is not disjoint sets. For example, this is one R1 region. So all the X belongs to here to this region will belong to class 1. Similarly, all X fall into this region will again belong to class 1. So these are disconnected regions. So for this linear model for classification, we will never end up to in this state, right? So this is not, we will always end up into this kind of state where region is nothing but a connected components, right? And if these connected components are convex in nature, right? Then I said that for probabilistic modeling, as if there are two classes, it is always convenient to take one class. If there are two classes, C1 and C2, so it is always convenient to take C1 as 1 and C2 as 0 for labeling, right? For labeling. For example, if you have dog and cat, so you always label dog with 1 and cat with 0. If you have more than two classes, then you say that it is, you can show it by one hot vector encoding, which is nothing known as which is also known as one of the k coding scheme, right? And this is all old lecture we have discussed in detail. I remember I have spent a whole 45 minutes on this slide only, just to give you an intuition. So this is the equation of a hyperplane. If you feed any x which is below the hyperplane, then this number will be less than 0. If you feed any x to this equation which is on the hyperplane, then it will be equal to 0. And if you feed any number, any x which is above the hyperplane to this equation, then it will be greater than 0, right? This is what we have said. And to find out an orthogonal distance from a point x or vector x to the hyperplane is, you can just simply divide it by norm of W. So it will give you the absolute perpendicular signed value of the distance, right? This is what it said. So anything on this slide? Can I go further? Yes or no?
Yes, sir.
Okay, fine, cool, very nice. Okay, so this class starts with this new version. So we say that for multi-class class, so this is simple, right? So if you understand all this, so now you can say that if you have two classes, the discriminant function will be very simple. So you need to define an hyperplane, right? So the hyperplane equation is nothing but W transpose X plus W0. So my discriminant function is nothing. If you feed any X to this equation, and if it is positive, it belongs to class 1. And if you feed any X to this equation of hyperplane, it is negative, then it belongs to class 2, right? So it is class 2 and this is class 1, right? So it is nothing but the main motive here is to find out the hyperplane. And this hyperplane in itself is a discriminant function here. And all those x which are above the hyperplane belongs to class 1. All those x which below to this hyperplane are class 2, right? So here for binary classification problem, my discriminant function is nothing but this is a hyperplane. I hope this is clear to you, right? Fine. So this is a discriminant function for binary classification. Cool. Well, now the problem comes when you have more than two classes, right? So let's say now there could be two approaches that you can come for multi-class classification problem. Either you can say that I can form my k minus 1 different classifier, right? So it is like this: C1, C2, and C3. So you form two classifier which say either it is C1 or not C1, right? Not C1. Then you say either it is C2 or not C2, right? Not C2. So obviously, which is not C1, not C2, it will be C3. So you need K minus 1 classifier here. So if there are K classes, but what will happen? They will give you some ambiguity. For an example, this hyperplane is for C1, and this hyperplane is for C2. So all those x which belong to above this hyperplane is belongs to C1, and all those which fall to this side of the hyperplane belong to C2. Now this region is common, right? This region is common for this C1 and C2. So you will fall into an ambiguity. What should I classify it for, right? The second approach is 1 versus 1. So you can take NC2 classifiers. NC2 means here combination permutation problem, right? NC2 classifiers, and you say that you just classify for every pair. So it is C1 C3, C1 C2, C2 C3, right? So there are three classes. And again, if you see that either one or the other side, you will classify it whether it belongs to some CK class or CJ class. But there will be some overlapping region which again falls into the ambiguity, right? And hence the points which come here, you will not concretely tell whether it belongs to C1, C2 or C3, right? This is what. So these kind of approaches will give you some problem and with ambiguity. And this ambiguous region will not will create a problem for you. So though you could have approached with this approach, but it results into an ambiguous region, which is not desired one. Fine. So then what we can do, we take one discriminant function, right? So it is known as K class discriminant. What happens for this K class discriminant? It comprising K linear functions. So it is like one hyperplane for every class, right? One hyperplane for every class. And you classify, so you classify X to some CK if for all Y, if YK is greater than for all Yj, where J is not equal to K, right? So it is like this. So there are, I'm trying to give you an intuitive feel, right? Then you just match it on this statement. So this is classifier 1. This is a hyperplane respect to class 1. This is a hyperplane respect to class 2. And let's say this is a hyperplane respect to class 3. So now there is some point somewhere here, right? So this point is very far from this point, this hyperplane. Second highest is this, and let's say third highest is this. Because the perpendicular distance is highest for C1, so then what you say, because my Y1 is highest, my Y1 is highest than Y2 and Y3, so you classify this X as C1 as it belongs to C1, right? So you feed this X to every hyperplane and find out a number. Wherever you find, and you just then pick the biggest number, and corresponding to the largest number, whichever class belongs to, you just classify that X to that hyperplane. Any question? Yes or no? Right. So mathematically understanding it easy, right? But how to make a sense out of it is this. I tried to construct this intuition, and it is like it may be totally biased because I have formed it in my own head. And let's see with the discussion what you come up with. So let's say there is two classes. There are two hyperplanes. This is for C1, and this hyperplane is for C2, right? So this hyperplane is for C1, and this hyperplane is here for C2. Then I make this X somewhere belongs to this middle, and it is equidistant from the C1 and C2, right? All those points which fall into the just equidistance from C1, C2, it constructs a decision boundary, right? So if this point belongs to here, then it is more close to C1. So this is a C1 region. And all those points belong here is C2 region. So this is C2 region, right? So there is an imaginary hyperplane comes into a picture, and this imaginary hyperplane can you form like this. So it is W1. This is for W1 transpose X plus W10. This is a hyperplane for my corresponding class 1, right? Then I say that this should be equal to W2 transpose X plus W20, right? So these all are nothing but this imaginary hyperplane. So if you construct this hyperplane, you bring all these things from into the left hand side, and you will say W1 minus W2 transpose. This is written here, right? So this is like you can see this way. So this is same what I'm trying to show here. So this is nothing but an imaginary hyper boundary. This is a hyperplane boundary, and similarly you come up with this decision boundary, and this is decision boundary, and then it will result into some convex boundaries, convex regions, right? So the idea is that you for this K class discriminant, you are forming some K hyperplanes. You feed your X to each hyperplane and find out what is the value it is given. Based on the largest value, you classify it to the corresponding class. Simple. The second thing, I'm trying to give you an intuitive feel of it. In intuitive feel, I said that this could be the decision boundary for class 1. This is a boundary. This is a hyperplane for class 2. But the actual boundary will come because of this subtraction, right? And for this, and this may belongs to this one, and it is for every two hyperplanes ij, kj, right? So when you do that, you find out this kind of this belongs to these boundaries, right? For every kj pair. So the regions that you will get will be convex, right? So to show that these are convex, let's say there is 2 points xa and xb that belongs to region rk. So this is a region rk. There are 2 points we have taken, xb and xa. We want to find out that this whole line belongs to region rk only. So what we do, just to represent a line, we can write it this way. If you don't know, you just do some manipulation or juggling on your copy with this equation. You find it out. This is nothing but a segment of line between xa and xb, where this lambda is nothing but it is belongs to 0 to 1. So this lambda belongs to a closed interval 0 to 1, right? 0, 1. So this is known as convex combination of 2 points xa and xb. So it is nothing, I am just talking about any point on the segment, and this point will be determined what is the value of a lambda. If lambda is 0, right, so I am talking about actually xb. If lambda is 1, I am talking about only xa. And if lambda is 0.5, so I am talking about just in the middle of any point, right? So this is nothing but in general, x hat is a point on a line. Then because I know that my equation of hyperplane is what? For this equation, what was my for this region, what should be the equation? It is such that my hyperplane wk transpose x plus wk0 is greater for all j where j is not equal to k. It means it is greater for this particular hyperplane in this region, right? That's why I'm saying this region is for rk. Then you just feed your value of x this way here, and you can find it out that it is nothing but you can rewrite that the yk hat, this yk x hat can be written as a convex combination of YKXA and YKXB, right? Because YKXA, I already told you that XA belongs to region RK and XB also belongs to RK. This means that Yk is greater than among all the hyperplanes. And if these two values are greater than among all the hyperplanes, then the convex combination will always be greater than among all hyperplanes. That's why all the points falling onto this line will belong to Yk. Right? Any question? Yes or no? Very nice. Very good. Can you type it quickly so that today's Monday and you should be very energetic? At least type. Very nice. So intuitively, I just told you that with this K class discriminant, you can form a decision regions which are convex in nature, and they're connected, right? Connected convex, connected and convex. It is important, which is nothing but it look like this. So once you fall into a region, it will be only one region. There is no disconnected from it. Now the question comes is, that's fine. We understood like what are discriminant functions, and it always give me directly without calculating a posterior probability of my kth class. It is just directly labeling me that this X belongs to this particular class K, right? I am not calculating any probabilities here. Just to bring your attention, we are reading and understanding discriminant functions, where discriminant function is nothing but it is for a given value, for given X, they will directly label they will directly label class, right? Without calculating the posterior probability. Now the question comes, how to find out a hyperplane? All these hyperplanes which I am talking about here is, this is my K hyperplanes in K discriminant function, and this hyperplane in binary classification. How to find out these hyperplanes? So there are three methods actually to learn these hyperplanes, or in short, to learn the parameters, right? So today class, I will going to discuss this least squares, and tomorrow and day after tomorrow we will be discussing these two things. So today I am going to tell you the least square method to find out the parameters for linear model classification, right? So far, if anything you don't have clarity, please let me know so that we can proceed for the optimization. Are you clear with all this? So this time I'm going to discuss a method which will tell me what are my W's, parameters. And for multi-class classification, there are so many hyperplanes, right? So there are so many W's, right? Okay, so let's understand it one by one. So this is a least square for formulation. So we already know that when we do least square thing, so we can always find out a closed form solution, right? So let's try to do that here as well. So this is in my K discriminant function. This is my kth equation, right? So I can rewrite. So let's say if you give me all hyperplanes, so I can write it this way. So I can write my matrix W such that every column is a one hyperplane, right? So it is a W parameter. So if there are K hyperplanes, so there are K columns, right? So there are K columns. So I have taken an augmented form. So what do you mean by augmented form? So it means this WK0 is attached with W. So I can write my equation of a hyperplane or W parameter such that WK0 will be my first entry, and then W parameter comes, right? So this is a vector where I have stacked it vertically. So this is scalar entry, and then this vector comes, right? So this is my this is a parameter for one hyperplane. So I have put it in vertical fashion, right? So this is my first hyperplane. parameter, second hyperplane parameter, third hyperplane parameter, and kth hyperplane parameter, right? So this is a W matrix, W hat or W tilde. And for X tilde, what we have done? We have done again a augmented vector. In this first entry is 1 and the rest entries are X, right? These are X, right? So now if I want to classify it, so if I want to predict for this particular X, what I can do, I can take this transpose of this. So now if I take a transpose, I will get a equation of, I will get a parameter of hyperplane row wise function, right? Because I have taken a transpose. Then I will multiply it with vector X. So this is nothing but a vertical vector. It is nothing but for first row, transpose this dot product, second row dot product, third row dot product. So I will get some key entries, right? So this is for corresponding first hyperplane, second hyperplane, third hyperplane, and kth hyperplane. I will take maximum of it and will say that my X belongs to this particular class. Is it clear?
So could you repeat that? Your voice got garbled in the last few lines.
Okay, so I will repeat this construct again. So what I said that my W is nothing but for example, I first formed the augmented vector. So for the augmented vector for hyperplane is like this. So first I take the bias, which is nothing but WK0, and then I just put the W, which give me the orientation, right? So I just vertically stacked them, and it give me the equation. It will give me the parameter of one hyperplane. So then I put all my hyperplanes in column wise fashion. So this is first hyperplane, second hyperplane, and then kth hyperplane, right? This is all my hyperplane represented by W tilde matrix. Then I said that my X is also augmented vector, where first entry is 1 and then X is there, right? Just to accommodate the bias, this bias. That's why I have put this one here. So this is my X vector, augmented X vector, I would say. And this is X here. What I do, I take the transpose of this W tilde. Then what will happen? All my hyperplanes comes into a row wise fashion, right? So this is all hyperplanes will come into a row. So each row is one hyperplane. Then I multiply this X. So W transpose X. I'm explaining you W transpose X. W transpose is this. And X is a vertical vector, right? So what I do, I take row and first column, second row, second column, kth row, this column, and I will get k entries. It is nothing but first row transpose X, second row transpose X, third row transpose X, and kth row transpose X. It is all entries corresponding to my hyperplanes, whichever is big largest. I will say my X belongs to that particular class. Is this clear now? Fine. Right. Okay. Okay. Very nice. Very good. So the thing is now, can anybody tell me what we are trying to learn here now? We formulated it. So what is that we want to learn? Lena BA. Lena BA. What we want to learn? Lena, are you there? You can mute yourself and let me know whether you are active over here. Lena BA. Absent. Okay, Lena, can you tell me what we are want to learn here? What we want to estimate in this equation? R Bhargav, R Raghavan, what we want to estimate? R Raghavan, are you there? Absent? R Raghavan. Kawana S, are you there? Kawana S. Aniruddha Mohan. Aniruddha Mohan. What we want to estimate here? In this equation, what we want to learn? Kshitij, Michael, what we want to learn?
So the value of minimal value of W for the hyperplane, I guess.
Okay, so there are so many things that you have said in fuzzy way. So we want to learn this W matrix, right? This W matrix is nothing but it is representing all the hyperplanes in a column-wise fashion. So if you want to estimate this W matrix, it means you want to estimate all the hyperplanes in one shot. So how we can go? So this is the equation to understand. So what X is here, let's say I have 100 samples or 10 samples in my data set. So I will take X1, first sample, second sample, third sample, and my 10th sample, right? So this is a matrix X, and here every row is an augmented vector. I don't need to repeat what is augmented vector for X, right? So this is my X matrix. This is my X matrix. And W, I already told you, in every column there is a hyperplane. So this is my first hyperplane, this is my second hyperplane, and there is a kth hyperplane, right? There is a kth hyperplane. So this is my W matrix, right? So this is my W matrix on right side. If I take this row and this column, it is a dot product, right? So what I do, if I take this dot product, it means I am saying for this particular X, what is the value for this particular hyperplane? Let's say this is a value V1, right? Then I take this same X and take a dot product with this hyperplane. Let's say this is a value V2, right? This is V2 value. Then I take this same X and take the dot product with kth hyperplane. This is value Vk. Right? So how can I classify my X to any K class? Can anybody tell me if I got V1 to Vk? Anybody?
Highest value of V will classify it to that.
Yes, I can find it out the highest value among this in this row, right? So this highest value will tell me what X belongs to, which class, because kth value is correspond to kth class, right? So similarly, you do this for second X sample, third sample, and nth sample, right? So then you get a matrix where the dimension of the matrix will be n by k, right? This is n by k. It means you have n samples, and for every sample you have k predictions. And among these k prediction, whichever is the largest, you say that this largest is actually representing the class, right? But let's say you started with some W and you don't know the exact value of W. So these predictions may go wrong, right? These predictions may go wrong. So then to calibrate how wrong they are, what you do, so you just remember this, I'm erasing it. So this is my predictions, V1 to Vk. So this is V1, V2, and Vk, right? And this is for all n samples. So the matrix dimension will be n by k. But I want to know how these predictions are there, how good they are prediction. So I want to calculate, I want to compare it with respect to my original data set. So let's say first X was belong to the second class. So this will be 0, 1 and all zeros, right? My second sample belongs to the third class. So this will be 0, 0, 1 and all zeros. My last sample belong to first class. So it will be 1, 0, 0 and all zeros, right? So this is nothing, but in every row, there is a target vector. There is a target vector which is actually representing that X, right? And this is the prediction. So how far my prediction is from my actual target, I need to subtract pairwise or corresponding entries. So it is V1 minus 0, V2 minus 1, right? So likewise, so I will subtract element wise these matrices from prediction to the target one, right? So once I subtract it, I will get the total error for every prediction. So this matrix is giving me the total error for every prediction. Can anybody tell me how to calculate the total error in least square summation? Yes, and
Some of the diagonals.
sorry,
Some of the diagonals of the.
no, not at all.
So discriminant.
So I want to calculate total error, right? So I am reading least square method. So how to calculate the total error?
Finding gradients in each W and equating it to 0.
No, I am not calculate. I am not asking you how to optimize this method. I am asking you how to find out the total error. You are asking me to optimize that method. No, first tell me, calculate me the total cost. What is the total error I got because of the least square method?
Adding each error of, like, for each X, we'll add the errors, like transpose
How to
to
do?
multiply sum of
How-
squares.
How to do that?
We can't directly add it, so उसका square लेना पड़ेगा and then we'll add it.
किसका स्क्वायर लेके क्या ऐड करना पड़ेगा?
Like XW minus T किया था, तो we'll transpose लेके multiply करेंगे तो वो squares होगा. So we are adding those errors.
Don't go to my construct what I have written on slide. I am just simply asking you, when you do XW minus T, it will give you the total error between the target and the prediction. So how to calculate the cost function for least square? That's my question is, right? Anybody? So this matrix, it will be E1, E2, EK, right? What is E1? Can anybody tell me what I'm trying to write E1?
Error one, the difference between the target and the X bar W bar ka first element.
So the E1 is nothing, but I am taking my first sample. For first sample, I am getting K predictions. So first prediction to Kth prediction. I have also target variable, which is one hot vector encoding. So this is prediction 1 and this is prediction K. For first sample, I am also getting one hot vector. This is, let's say, 1 0 0 0. So to get a total error, I need to subtract it element wise, right? So this is my error E1 and this is my error EK, right? So this is for first sample. Similarly for second sample, E1 to EK, right? And similar to nth sample, E1 to EK. Now can anybody tell me how to calculate the least square cost function?
E1 square plus E2 square plus EK square, जितने भी elements हैं, सब कुछ.
Very good. Very good. So I need to take a square of every element and sum it. This is my total error. This is what we do in least squares, right? Don't fall for the trap of this dimensionality. The basic fundamental is same. I need to calculate the sum of a squares errors, right? So this is I need to just take a square of every element in this matrix and just add it, right? Now the funda comes like how to do it smartly. What they say, you take this matrix, you transpose it, and you will multiply it with the same matrix, right? E1 to E2 to EK, and this is the same matrix. Same matrix E1, E2, AK, and you just multiply it with the same transpose, and what you will get a matrix where the diagonal entries is like this: E1 square plus E2 square, E3 square plus E4 square, E5 square plus E6 square, and likewise. So when you just add all these entries, you will get what? E1 square plus E2 square plus E3 square plus E4 square, and so on. So what you have done, you have taken the diagonal elements of this matrix. So this was a matrix where on diagonal I will get let's say E1 square plus E2 square, E3 square plus E4 square, E5 square plus E6 square, E7 square plus E8 square. So you are just taking the diagonal elements and adding them again. So this is known as trace. So when you sum the diagonal elements, it is known as trace, and it will give you the error. Is this clear to you guys?
Yes, sir.
Right. So those who want to confirm my statement, how I do. So I do this A, B, C, D, right? So I take a transpose. So it is nothing but A, C, B, D, right? You just multiply these matrices. You multiply these matrices. What is this? A square plus C square, right? Then what you will get here? BA plus DC. For this you get AB plus CD. AB plus CD. And then what here you get? B square plus D square, right? B square plus D square. If you just take the diagonal elements and add them, what you will get? A square plus C square plus B square plus D square. This is a smart linear algebra trick where you're just adding the element square of a matrix, given matrix, right? I hope this is clear to you. Can you quickly write yes or no, please, first? Very nice. So then that's why this is all what we have done smartly written, and nothing big deal here, because you are not good in linear algebra and reading and studying. So you can read it out and make a sense of it. This is now error function. Now your things comes, how to minimize it. So Yashdeep, don't fall for all those steps. Please try to make the sense out of it. So now what you have said, now that comes. This is my error function. I want to minimize it. Because it's a quadratic function, how to minimize it? I should take a derivative with respect to W and put it equals to 0, right? So if you do that, you just, I want you to do it on your copy and pen. When you do it, you will get this value. W transpose is this way. And this is the same form what we had in linear regression, right? Same form. So this W will give me that optimal answer, which will which will minimize my error, total error. And to predict, now this is your W matrix. You predict it for a given X, right? This is nothing but rewritten. You have rewritten this same thing. So don't this is the same thing. I hope everything is clear to you now, right? So can you, I want you to just form a toy example and just do this on your copy. Do it in your computer, right? For this slide, for this lecture, is there any question?
Sir, the X with whatever symbol, that is the pseudo inverse, right?
Yeah, it is a pseudo inverse. It's the same thing what we have done in linear regression. So some important properties I want to discuss here is, so an interesting property of least square solution with multiple target variable is that if every target vector in the training set satisfies some linear constants. So this is my target variables, right? They are satisfying some linear constant in this form. So can anybody tell me what is the value of A and B which is satisfying for my K class classification?
A is a W vector, B is W naught.
No. You need to give me the specific value of A and B, which will satisfy this equation where T is nothing but one hot vector encoding. Yeah, because T is nothing but it's a target vector, right? For one sample and its sample. So it will satisfy every time. What is the value of A and B, which will satisfy this linear equation?
0, 0.
No, that is very trivial. You should give me the non-trivial solution if it is available. Yeah, but you are right. It is 0, 0, but I am not looking for that solution. So it is if A is a vector of 1, right? If A is a vector of 1, all ones, and B is nothing but -1. Because it is a one hot vector encoding, so there will be at least one entry which is 1, right? And rest will be zeros. What will happen? The dot product will be 1. And when you subtract 1 from 1, you will get 0. So it means it is actually satisfying this linear constant where is a vector of 1 and B is -1, which is a scalar entry, right? If your this is actually satisfying this property, then what you say, the prediction yx you get, the prediction what you get from here will also satisfy this property, right? Will also satisfy this property. It means what? Can anybody tell me it means what? Anybody can tell me what is the meaning? If your prediction is also satisfying this statement, and you know the A is nothing but vector of 1, B is -1. So what does your prediction will satisfy now?
It is an accurate prediction.
No, you can't say that it is accurate prediction. It means that the sum of all prediction will always be 1, right? Can you make it out here? Because it means when you transpose anything with a vector of 1, you are adding all the components, right? So when you are adding all the component and subtract it from B is nothing but -1. I just told you from here. So it means the sum of all the prediction is always 1. Is this making sense now? So if all the predictions is summing up to 1, can I interpret this Y prediction as a probability? No, that's a catch here. It doesn't give me this constant. It doesn't give me that constant that Y prediction will always fall between 0 to 1. No, it is not normalized. There may be some entries, like there may be some entries which say -99 and the other entry could be 100, right? Still the sum will be 1. But I cannot interpret them as probabilistically, right? So please don't fall for the trap if this question comes to you, but I really doubt that this high level question comes to you in any interview, but you should remember all these things. So yx, though it satisfy, it have a constant that it sums to 1, but you can't interpret them as a probabilistically because it doesn't, for every field is doesn't have any constant that it is between 0 to 1, right? Fine. The last point is that for least square classification, they are actually they are not robust and they fall for the outliers. For an example, for this class 1 and this class 2, you will have a decision boundary which is shown in magenta here. But if you add some points here, so they will have a more attraction for this least square, and you pull this magenta like this, which is actually creating some error. Ideally, this is the decision boundary, which should not be hampered because of addition of some points here. But because we are doing least square things, so it will hamper it. So least squares are not robust to outliers. So we will discuss it why in next class. Okay. Thank you very much. We will continue with the session in next class. Any questions before I close it? You can drop your attendance and leave. If somebody have a question, please let me know.